You're tuned in to Stewart Spotlight Podcast live with your host, William Stewart Jr. with topics of everyday life. Tune in every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. Today's guest, Reggie Cunningham. Life and achievements. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode. Now your host, William Stewart Jr.
Yes, good evening and welcome to Stewart Spotlight Podcast. My name is William Stewart Jr. and I am your host this evening. Today is Friday, May the 30th. Where did this month go? Wow, June is right around the corner next week. This year is flying by fast. Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful week and getting ready for the weekend, because you know the weekend go by so fast. The blink of a blink is Monday. Work start all over again. I hope everyone had a wonderful Memorial Day Monday. I hope there was a lot of barbecue, chicken, hot links, baked beans, all on the grill, and I hope everyone was safe. It's that time of that program that I need your support. And I know you're asking me, how could I support you? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can support me by doing this.
I need your support. I need you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and make sure you turn on your notifications. So therefore, every time you hear this, you know that Stewart Spotlight Podcast is live.
Yes, that's right. Turn on your notifications. So therefore, every time on your devices, cell phone, computer, laptops, if you hear that little ding, Stewart Spotlight is live. Tune in. The quote of the day. The quote of the day is, helping one person might not change the whole world, but it could change the world of that one person. Let that marinate in your system a little bit. That's a deep quote. Author says unknown. So whoever thought of it, that was a good thought. My guest today is a dear friend that I've known for many of years. Reggie Cunningham, better known as RC, Life and Achievements. A very successful young man who went through a lot to get to where he's at. But we're going to have a talk with him right after this break. So sit back, relax, stay tuned. Yes, we're back with Stewart Spotlight Podcast. Once again, my name is William Stewart Jr. I am your host. As I stated before, we have a very special guest who's a friend of mine for many years. I'm not even going to prolong my guest today. I'm just going to bring him right on. Without further ado, let's welcome Reggie Cunningham. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, William. Thank you. Very nice intro. And I love that quote of the day. Didn't I say that to you?
Say that again?
Your quote of the day.
Oh.
Didn't I say that to you? Is that my quote?
No, that was not your quote. Don't even try to claim it, all right? It was not your quote. Now, you come up with some good ones, but this one was not. Reggie, thank you for coming on. And how you been doing?
Good. Things are well. I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, how's the family doing?
Family's doing good. Everybody's doing well.
Okay.
Knock on wood.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as I stated before, I've been knowing Reggie for many years. So I call him RC. I don't know who else call him RC. It's very short for me. RC, Reggie Cunningham, RC. And RC is 58 years of age. If people wants to know, 58 years of age, very successful, and accomplished a lot of things in life. I'm so proud of him. I'm just going to start off just talk about your how many siblings do you have?
I have 3 brothers.
3 brothers.
Yeah, I'm next to the youngest of 4.
Okay. And were you always in trouble?
Trouble now. Did I get caught a lot?
Well, basically, yes, that too.
No, for the most part, I stayed out of trouble. I wasn't a troublemaker.
Uh-huh.
I got into trouble, with my siblings a lot. We had our differences growing up as boys, but I didn't get in a lot of trouble. No.
Okay.
So that was good.
So were your brothers very protective over you?
Yes and no. I had a slick mouth back then. As a young kid.
And still
I
do.
was always the smallest. So, I had to be the toughest,
And still do.
So I think I protected them a lot.
Okay.
You had to be tough. 4 boys raised by a single mom on the west side of Chicago.
Okay.
Had to be ready.
So among the among the 4, who was your favorite? Everybody has a favorite brother.
No, I different phases in my life,
Right.
different brothers became, the favorite because, we're all so very different. If we were all in a room, you would not know we're brothers by personalities because we're all so different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, growing up, did you ever had any dreams of becoming a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief?
No, that's weird. Growing up, I guess my only dream was to move out of the hood and start my own family. That was my dream. That's what I, dreamt about at night and stayed up, fantasizing about, my own family, my own wife, kids, and our house with our picket fence. That was my dream.
So you say move out of the hood. So were you snobbish back then, or what?
No, I just growing up, I was always bothered by, the neighborhood with the vacant lots and the boarded up buildings. And
Right.
I always knew that there was something better out there.
Right.
And, I wanted it,
I understand. So now, how were you in school?
As
As far as grades. As far as grades.
I was a BC student in school. Teachers always said I could have been an A student, but I wasn't as focused on schoolwork. I was focused on my dreams and just with household things with growing up on the west side. There was a lot that you had to deal with every day.
Right. Yes.
And school just wasn't the focus for me. And school was hard for me. Like I got really good grades when I applied myself. Like some people it just came naturally to. I had to really apply myself.
So were you ever bullied in school? Considering you had 3 other brothers.
Yes. I was. I don't think too many people were excluded from bullying. But yes, I was in, one particular instance, like I was at my freshman year in high school. I remember I was cornered in the washroom by these guys. They had like maybe 4 of us in the washroom that they, freshmen that they circled. And I was thinking, Lord, how am I going to get out of this one? I can't fight my way out of this one. I don't know what I'm going to do. And someone came in the washroom and they said, hey, y'all know who that is, right? That's so-and-so's little cousin. Y'all better let him go. And they let me go. And that kind of stuck throughout high school, that no one really bothered me because, I had a cousin on the west side who was notorious, you know, for things that
So,
we're not going to get into right now. But his
okay,
notoriety saved me.
okay, just mention the name and everybody's just depart.
Yeah, they said,
Oh wow,
we want those problems.
that's interesting. So as I stated before, you said you while in school your dream was just to be married, have kids, and have a little picket fence, move out of the hood, be in a nice, safe environment. So now you completed school.
Yes.
What was your first job?
My first job was McDonald's. Well, while I
Okay.
was in school, like 15, 16. And then from there, I became a bank teller downtown at this bank. And then from there, I landed at the title company where I'm at now.
So how long
Where-
were you at McDonald's before you went to the teller?
I was at McDonald's. I think I started at McDonald's when I was 15, and I made manager when I was 17, the youngest manager, you know, in this guy's franchise chain. And I was there until I was 19. Actually, I started working nights at McDonald's, and I was a bank teller during the day.
So you was doing two jobs?
Yes, I was doing two jobs at that time.
All right. So now, after the teller, when did you get married?
I got married. I started dating my ex-wife when I was 21. We got married at 25.
So what?
I had it all planned out.
Yeah, I can tell. Where did you meet your wife?
At the title company. So once I started working at the title company, and again, coming from the West Side, going to this big title company downtown Chicago, it was just like eye-opening. You know, everybody was so professional. The girls had on their heels, their business suits, you know, and I was just in awe. And I was like, okay, this is where I'm gonna find my wife and start this life that I wanted.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did. So
now how long were you at the title company before you met your wife?
Let's see. Well, I met her instantly once when I started. There were several girls there that I dated until, you know, I picked the one that I thought would make, you know, a good wife.
A good wife.
That sounds weird. But yeah, so I met her almost instantly. She wouldn't go out with me for a while. I had to really, you know, chase her, and then we went out, and from there it was history, I guess.
Okay. So and then you married her, and you had how many kids?
We had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl.
Okay. And
yeah,
something happened to your girl.
Yeah, my daughter contracted meningitis and she passed. So we lost her. And my youngest son now, he has Danny Walker syndrome, where he's born with water on his brain. So he's special needs. So I have 2 boys now, and he's 21, and my oldest boy is 23.
Okay. So now you get your son every other weekend, I believe.
Yes.
So what do you guys do when you play around on the floor, play games, or what?
Yeah, because he's non-mobile, non-verbal. So we are on the floor, and you know, we have this room with mats on the floor where we can play around at, and we also play Speed Racer with me racing him around my dining room table in his wheelchair. So we have fun.
And your 23-year-old?
He's living his best life.
I could imagine. I could imagine.
Going to school and working at a production company. He wants to start his own production company. So that's, you know, his goal and his dream. So that's where he's at.
So how his dad is going to help him with this production company?
I am not going to help him with his production company.
I know you spoiled your child. So let's talk about that for a moment. Now, what did you give your son when he was growing up?
Growing up, I gave him, well, you know, we tend to try to give our kids everything that we didn't have.
Right.
So, you know, he did have a lot of stuff growing up. And as an adult, I think I gave him, last thing I gave him a Discover card, which I'm really rethinking now. But yeah.
It's kind of too late now, isn't it? A Discover card to buy things where his dad is going to pay for things, correct?
Well, yeah, you know, he has his own apartment, he moved
Uh-huh.
out. So I wanted him to have that card for incidentals, you know, in case of emergencies. But it's turning out that he's in Target every day, spending $200-300. Like, why are you in Target every day?
Target?
Yes, Target.
Oh, jeez. Now, oh gosh, and Dad's got to pick up that tab.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now, you and your wife bought your son a car, right?
Yes, we bought him a Jeep Compass for his 16th birthday, which he still drives today.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. So now, you move from the teller. You move from McDonald's to the teller. From the teller to the title company. You were married. You have 3 kids. How did you feel accompanying that thus far?
How did I feel with the company?
By accumulating what you have already set your mind.
Oh, okay. So, you know, with, you know, the family dream, and at that time I had 2 handicapped kids, which was, you know, a lot. And my goal at the time became, how am I going to support my family? So money became the primary goal for me. So every move I made was focused on, I need to provide for my family. And so I was very strategic with taking a look at the company and seeing the different departments and who was working in the departments and the managers, and how the managers promoting their people, were the managers themselves in positions to do things. So I really watched those things before I made a move, and I really calculated where I wanted to go, to find the right departments that would help me reach my goal, and that's what I did.
So, was there any kind of struggle to reach your goal?
Yeah, you know, there was struggles all along the way. One of the things that, you know, I realized and I had to pay attention to was that, you know, people will try to cap your greatness. You know, they will allow you to go so far, but then, you know, they'll put up roadblocks in order to stop you from going any further. You know, there's a difference between rising and soaring. And, you know, and it took me a long time to, you know, realize that, you know, I'm not going to allow other people to dictate how great I can become. And so, you know, I had to get comfortable with walking in spaces that were not welcoming to me. You know, getting comfortable in uncomfortable spaces was, you know, something that I really had to struggle with and, you know, make myself okay with. And that I did that by giving myself prep talks and motivating myself every day, you know, going in the mirror saying, okay, Richard, you got this. You're smart enough, you know, you can do this. And that's what got me through those spaces to continue to get to where I made it today.
So now on your first year at the title company, did you set yourself a goal? Okay, I need to make X, Y amount of money, and now this is how I'm going to do this. What kind of goals you set upon yourself?
Absolutely. The first goal I set was to move into a department where I thought that I could make, you know, more money at. I wanted to move into a field within the title company where I could make money. And that was commercial real estate and the escrow department. So I targeted a department, and then I set the goal of I wanted to make $100,000 a year. And, you know, that was a lofty goal. And I remember telling a friend of mine that, you know, I wanted to make, this is what I wanted to make. And it was like, they're never going to pay you that amount of money. You're not going to make that amount of money. But, you know, for that year, I worked toward that goal by learning everything that I could learn and some, and mastering it, and then going in and saying, hey, I've done this, this. And I think that with these skills, this is where my salary should be. And it worked. And I got it.
And that's within your first year?
That's within my first year. Yes.
Wow. So were you promoted from, what was your original title when you was in the title company?
I went from a title indemnity clerk to a assistant escrow officer to escrow officer.
Okay. Within the first year?
Yes, within the first year.
So now how often were you getting promoted after that?
After that, the promotions, the titles didn't really change.
Okay.
It took, 5 or 6 years for the title to change after I became an officer.
Okay.
And then what happened then was the projects that I was working on grew. The deals that I was working on grew. I became able to work on more complex transactions. I was able to deal with more sophisticated clients, and I just built up, my clientele and my skills.
Now, I'm gonna go back because you said you had some challenging moments at one point where people were giving you negativity, saying you can't do this, you can't do that, and you just void that completely out of your mind and say, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yes, and that was a learning process because, once you start to ascend, negativity seems to just come all around you, from family, friends, co-workers, customers, clients. It comes from everywhere, and you have to build up your resistance to that, and be able to identify it and learn how to process it. There were times, as far as work, where the customers would come in and they wouldn't even want to shake my hand. They wouldn't shake my hand. People wouldn't speak to me until they found out who I was and what my role was. And then you see those things change. And friends, as you start to ascend, friends starts feeling some kind of way, and all of a sudden you start hearing those things, you think you're better than this, or you're acting funny, but really, no, I'm focused. I can't go out every weekend. I can't go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
I got goals and things that I'm trying to reach. And, it's just so important when you're trying to reach a goal that you build up the resistance to those type of negative feedback.
Now, you just said something. People didn't even want to shake your hand.
Yeah.
Really?
I would walk into a conference room or walk into the room where the transaction is going on, with them not knowing that I'm the one who's facilitating the transaction. And they would think that I was there to take their coffee orders, or, to make copies for them. And, people will treat you that way, and, until they learned who I was and realize that your transaction is going through me. And there were, coworkers who would not even speak to me until they found out who I was, or until they saw me speaking with their boss. And then they were like, oh, I guess he's somebody we need to know. So now we're going to be nice to him. So it was that type of constant thing that you had to deal with as you start to ascend in spaces that were not designed for you.
So were you the only person of color?
The only male person of color.
Oh.
And, a couple of the female African-American women who work for the company would say that I'm a unicorn. I don't exist. you know, and it was true. You go into these conferences with 200, 300 people and you're the only one. It takes a toll.
Because I've seen you on Facebook where you have to present certain things. You're at the podium and you're talking to a mass amount of people. And how was that feeling? Because if you're in a place where people don't like you and trying not to disrespect you, but really disrespecting you, that's a bad feeling in a way.
It is, but you have to be able to turn that. You know, one thing about us is that, you know, we have to walk in excellence. We have to be 10 times better. So when I speak, you better believe I done dotted every I and crossed every T. So right. The information that I'm giving is correct, because they will challenge you. And so you have to stand in, and it became empowering. I mean, it really did become empowering for me to be in those spaces and stand up and succeed.
So going through this transition, were there ever any coworkers very supportive of you and just keep pushing you and making your drive go even further?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I worked for one title company for 13 years, and I left there and moved to another title company where I'm at now, where I've been for 23, 24 years. And the people at the prior company followed me. They followed me through my career. And when I would run into them, and they would all tell me how proud they are of me and you know, give me the you go. So that really, really, really touched me, that, you know, people would look up to me and would, like, you know, are proud to see that I'm in the position that I'm in now.
So did you have any mentors or people who really motivated you when you were growing up?
Yeah, you know, through every stage of my life, there was a mentor. You know, whether they wanted to be a mentor or not, you know, I watched and picked up things from many people. My mother had, I believe, 5 brothers, so my uncles were always around, and each one of them brought something different to me. One of my uncles was the responsible one who handled finances really well and made sure that everybody was taken care of. One of my uncles was the fun uncle who brought, you know, the fun, the joy. And another one of my uncles was family oriented. You know, he really took care of his family, and I admired him for that. So there was a constant flow of people around me that I took inspiration from.
Wow. What about your childhood?
My childhood, if I'm looking back, I was a troubled child. You know,
you didn't hear from me. Okay.
Young child, I was angry a lot. You know, I think I just was a bit misunderstood a lot as a child, and just didn't tolerate a lot of nonsense. Because I just knew that, you know, I wanted better. I knew there was something for me. Didn't really know what it was or how to get it. So, you know, that caused me to, you know, act out.
So,
like together.
So in your previous job, both of the title companies, I know you face a lot of challenges. Could you just give us some example of one?
Let's see. I think the biggest challenge for me is, well, first let me go back to say that, you know, I'm a Black male in this white dominated field, and those are just the facts. I don't have a college degree. I didn't finish college. I got married, we started having kids, and college, I just didn't have time for college because the kids required so much. And so when you're working and you don't have a college degree, you know, when you have a college degree, the bar is set when you come in. when you don't have a degree, you have to work your way and prove yourself. And so that was always a challenge for me. I kind of found myself each time having to prove myself over and over again. And that was a big challenge for me, and something that I had to, recognize and realize that I had to prove myself, and that out of everybody in the room, if somebody wanted to challenge, I was going to be the one that they would challenge. If I said something, the questions would start coming at me, and I had to be prepared for it, and I had to be ready for it, because they look at me and they're like, okay, in the corporate America, it's a dog eat dog world. They are stepping on heads to get to where they wanted to go. And by appearance wise, they thought I was the easiest one to step on. And so, I had to have my stuff together to make sure that, no, I'm not going to be that easy target for you.
Wow. So I want you to hang in there with me one moment. We're going to take a little small break, because this is getting very interesting because of the struggles you have to go through to get to where you are. And I'm going to surely, especially going through the racial aspect of it, that's even harder, because they don't want you there, but yet you got to prove your point that I deserve to be here, and you're going to give me respect going forward. So hang in there right quick. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this commercial. And we're back with my guest, Reggie Cunningham, RC. We were just talking about your struggles and how you have to make a mark in this life, and to let people know who you are and give you respect because you deserve it. And I know it was kind of difficult because um, in the financial world, as you said, it's the white man's world. I guess you would say that, or what's the better way to put it? I'm trying to be politically correct, but it's dominated by.
Yes, it is definitely.
It's dominated by. Okay, that's a good choice of words.
Very few of us sprinkled in there.
Right. So, okay. Any other struggles you had because by being married with you had 3 kids and you lost one, and now you get your son every other weekend, and you're spending quality time with him, and you have another son who has his own apartment. That's a lot of burden on you. And where do you find time for yourself?
Well, I'm an introvert, so I do have to find time for myself. I do have to, take time to rejuvenate myself in order to, to juggle so many things. But I find time to have my fun. I like to entertain. I like to have my family and my friends around. I love to step.
No kidding. No, I have seen your stuff on Facebook, especially on Christmas time, with that spiral steps. You got champagne on each step going down. I was like, well, I wasn't invited to the party. So that's okay. I understand. I'm most sure I get my invitation one day. All right.
You will have a open standing invitation.
That's what
every
I'm
year.
talking about. So now,
Yeah.
RC, now you live in this big mansion, this big mansion in Orland Park. Originally, a basketball player purchased it, and you purchased it from them.
Yes.
Living alone, working long hours, taking care of your kids. Once again, you already stated how you try to interact with your family and friends, and just the me time.
Mhm.
What's the purpose of that big house? Tell me about that big house, because I
Well,
remember it very well.
well, first, I was living before I moved into the home that I'm in now. I was living in the south suburbs in a really nice house. But as I started to, ascend, I learned that, you can't really outgrow the block, because they ran me out of there. They broke in my house at least 4 times.
Oh wow!
Just snatched the alarm system off while I was at work. So I had to move up out of there. And we talked about determination and will.
Right.
I didn't know it at the time, but I've always practiced manifestation and and being really conscious of my vibrations. So when I moved, I set my son down and I said, okay, I want you to write out all the things that you want in your dream house. And we sat at the kitchen table and we both compiled a list. And I went out and started searching for this house that encompassed everything that we wanted.
Wow.
And I found this house, and it was out of my price range. So what I did was
really
it
okay.
was,
But go ahead. Go ahead with your story. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you have that one. But go ahead with your story.
the house was my screensaver at work. It was on my phone. It was on my iPad. I dreamt of this house and the parties I was going to throw, and how my son was going to, his friends were going to come by. I had it all worked out. And they took the house off the market for a while, but I still dreamt about it. I still kept it up. And then they put it back on and dropped the price.
Wow.
Significantly.
Okay.
And then that's how I ended up in this house.
Wow.
Unfortunate for, the basketball player who sold the house. He was going through a messy divorce and was forced to sell. And that's how I got it.
And, as we all know, any athlete always can buy a big house with many wings. With many wings. Because I remember the house with the swimming pool in the back and I was like, jacuzzi was in the corner. I was like, oh, boy, it must be nice to have money. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about those expensive things you enjoy spending. Because, such as cars, jewelry, clothing.
Okay.
Before you go into your theory about the items, cars, jewelry, and clothes, I put together a little video, a video of RC clothes. Take a look at this. Okay, let's talk about this fashion. Because for the years I've known you, you always dress unique. Let's talk about that.
I have to throw this disclaimer out
there.
Yes,
please do.
You know, everybody have their vices. You know, some people spend their money on liquor. Some people spend their money on cigars. Some people spend their money on, you know, loose men, loose women, whatever. You know, me, I like to wear my money. So I don't mind spending a coin on a piece of fabric. It just became a thing. But I'm not one of those people who spends a lot of money. Everything got to be label, label, label. No, you know, I'll shop at the flea market, the Swaparama, wherever I see something that I want. You know, I'll buy it and I'll wear it and I'll mix it.
Okay, now
Yeah.
let's talk about that one last picture at the end. You standing in front with this bag in this chair. Let's talk about that bag.
Oh, the Telfar bag. That bag is it's from a Black-owned company, and they make bags, and you know, it's a nice bag, very inexpensive bag. So,
Okay, what is inexpensive to you? You know, cause anything over $50 is expensive to me. So what is inexpensive for you?
I think that bag was maybe $300.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. You're saying $300 for that one bag. What about that other bag that you bought?
There wasn't another bag in the picture.
No, it was not. I didn't want to put that bag in the picture. Now let's talk about that bag. What kind of bag was that?
Now that was a 40-inch Birkin, a hack, I think they call it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to ask about the price on that. But if the viewers, if you want to look that up, you know how much that bag costs.
It's a travel bag. It's a 2-day travel bag. You know, you put your outfits in it for 2 days. You travel, and you know, it's practical.
I come from my bag, and it's very practical. And get there the same time you get there, just clear plastic. Oh, I'm sorry, that's below your. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's talk about them cars you have, because I remember going to the car dealer with you one time, and that was my last time I went with you, because I went to look at some cars as well. But you know, I'm not looking to buy or spend that kind of money on those cars. But who? RC went and bought a Range Rover, and not only did he buy it, he paid for it cash. I thought you was going to finance it like average normal people would do, but no, you want to pay for it cash. You don't want no car note?
Not if I can help it. I try to live as debt free as possible.
Okay.
And you know, I'm not one of those people who gotta have something right now. Like I can wait and I can save and I can plan and then I'll get it. And that's kind of like what I like to do, especially if I'm buying a big ticket item, you know. But I am definitely not opposed to financing a car. I've done that, you know, many
times. Because if you put a dent in the car, you're selling it and buying something else. Let's talk about this BMW. What kind of car that BMW is?
The M60, the electric M60 truck.
And the truck ran into a tree, or the tree ran into the truck. Which one was it?
Well, I was backing up the driveway, and I had just got some bad news, so my mind was like racing. And as I was accelerating to come up the driveway, the tree moved. That's my story. I'm sticking to it because that tree should not have been there.
As you were backing up, the tree moved and made you have an accident.
That's my story.
Well, BMW, you won't be around too long, so
No, I don't buy cars like that anymore. That was young. I don't do that anymore.
Okay, are you going to keep the BMW?
I am. I love the electric BMW. And for those out there who are listening, we all know that cars are what, you know, they call a bad asset, because, you know, they appreciate.
So as you drive it off the lot.
Yeah. So, you know, we don't do that anymore. That was young Rich.
So I'm assuming you have electric box in your garage too. Just plug it up.
Yes, yes.
I should have known. I don't even know why I even asked that question. Okay, let's talk about your jewelry because you have had some diamonds on your fingers at one time. I was thinking about cutting them off and just. I mean, like the way the rings was. I was like bling bling.
Well, I think every man should have at least one piece of nice jewelry. I do wear several rings every day, but they're meaningful. Like when I got divorced, I've been married. I was married for like 13 years, and I really got used to wearing a wedding band. So once I got divorced, I upgraded it to a nicer ring, and it's my divorce ring. So I wear that.
Okay. I'm not going there. So, okay, you say you like to wear your money, and that's respectful. I can understand that because people do drugs, get drunk, gambling, but you like to show the value of your money.
I like to wear my money, and like I said, keeping in mind, I'm really cognizant of what I spend, how I spend. I don't live above my means. I don't spend money that I don't have. But I do like to dress. Yeah.
Now, viewers, you heard when he don't spend money that he don't have. It's a clause. It's a clause in there. Okay, I'm not going to say nothing else. So let's talk about your job. Now, you are the Vice President, Regional Director.
Yeah, Vice President, Regional Director of Escrow.
Escrow. Okay, give us some example. What is your daily duties and responsibility as being the Vice President?
Okay, so what I do daily is I manage the Chicago escrow team, which is a team 14 people who close corporate and commercial real estate transactions throughout the country. So we're a national unit, and we close, we do corporate buyouts, takeovers, we do real estate portfolios, commercial real estate portfolios, let's say transactions from 100 million to $2 to $3 billion. These are the type of deals that my team handles here in Chicago. And I also, as regional director of escrow, help set policies and procedures for, the offices within the country and within the Midwest, which is my region.
Wow. So you dealing with 100 million to $2 billion of transactions from different corporate buyouts to real estate sales.
Yes.
So how is the market now since the interest rate is so high? Is it still corporate buyouts?
Because of our president and the tariffs that are going on, commercial real estate has, for the first time in my 30-year career, have seen a lull in commercial business. Residential real estate always has its ups and downs, but commercial is always steady. Companies and people, rich people, they never had a problem with getting loans, getting money, because when the banks were lending money, they would borrow money from 401ks and things of that nature. So, but this is the first time that we're seeing the commercial market shaky. So,
wow.
People are just kind of sitting and trying to see where things are going to land.
Okay, so with your experience and knowledge, doing a large transaction like what you just explained, have individuals ever just say, who are you, with the nose down, and it's like disrespecting you in a sense?
Yeah, it's funny how I spend most of my day also reviewing contracts and negotiating language, and letting attorneys know what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and sometimes, people love to want to go over your head, or if you deliver something that they don't like, they'll call. In our industry, we have sales reps who go out and get these deals and bring these deals to the table. And someone's on my team delivers a message that they're not happy with, they call their sales rep, and their sales rep they'll say, hey, I need this, someone else to address this. Who can I talk to?
Wow.
And that person is generally me. And they sometimes have a hard time taking a no from me.
Wow.
But they luckily, the team and the people ahead of me, they back me, because they know if I say no, it's a no.
So therefore, you have attorneys who work with you to make sure everything is legit, and especially dealing with that kind of volume of money. I'm sure that you have a team.
Yes, we do have a team of corporate attorneys, a law department. There's many lawyers that will get involved if we have to.
Wow. RC, I'm just so proud of you. Any last words you would like to give the viewers? Because as I stated before, you have came a long way, and I'm going to use that determination to get what you want, and staying focused on that path, and other than deviating, you're staying straight and narrow. So I applaud you for that.
Thank
So
you.
we need more people, people of color, with that determination to have that thrive. Because I'm sure that there's people out there who wants to do something, but get deterred from certain situations. But
Yeah. My advice, that if I was, giving advice to younger people, or anyone, not necessarily young people, but don't let anyone else put a cap on your greatness, because people will try to do that, and and they'll do it without you even noticing it. But if you have that feeling inside of you that you need to soar, then soar. Don't let people tell you, you should settle here, or, oh, I'm proud of you, you made it here. That does not mean that you cannot go further. So, just keep pushing, and don't let anyone stifle, your growth.
So is there any other growth you would like to go from vice president? Do you want to go even further?
Actually, I think that in the next 2 years, I'm planning on retiring. And I don't know what that quite looks like right now.
Okay.
But maybe I might, go into something that's, mine, as opposed to working for something that's,
Working for
someone
somebody else.
else's.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm gonna throw this little monkey wrench in the game anyway. I went to my friend, this young man right there who on this screen, and I still have this thing. I'm just I can't sleep at night. I have to go see a psychiatrist. I said, RC, I need to borrow $100, and he cussed me out.
I did not.
He literally said, you won't get it here. I was like, wow. Just like a kid, when you tell a kid no, and they just have this lingering for the rest of their life. I still got this ringing in my ear.
That is not true, William. And therapy. That's another thing we all need to take a look at. Therapy is our friend.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right. RC, I really appreciate you coming on, and thanks a lot. And feel free to come back anytime to give us some more updates of maybe you got promoted to the president. I don't know. If you do, I need a job.
Will do. Thank you, William. I appreciate it.
RC, thank you for coming on, all right? And I'll talk to you later, all right? Okay, that was Reggie Cunningham. I'm just so honored to have him as a friend. He's a a genuine friend who will give you the shirt off his back if you really need it. And I was just kidding about the $100 because I'm always kidding about that. He knows the inside joke on that. Before we end the show, I have my Bible verse that's coming from Psalms 121 and 2. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. I like that one. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode this evening, and I hope you gained something out of this. A person who's coming from nothing to all the way to the vice president, a regional director, and have that large amount of responsibility on his shoulders among his family that he's attending to his son. My hat goes on to you. Okay, well, as I stated before, I hope everyone enjoyed the show. I want you to tune in next week. Same time, same place, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, I want everyone to have a nice and safe weekend. God bless.